Howdy, good evening. It's Friday, and here we're trying to get off of Facebook Live tonight. Dr. Michael Valentine talking about foods that you should avoid, in order to have a healthy thyroid. Of course, you know that your thyroid's real important as far as energy. It's important for brain function. It's important for hair. It's important for nails, skin issues. So the thyroid's got so many important functions that it's involved in. So we want to make sure that your thyroid's not being interfered with certain foods. And of course, you might have heard before in the past, let's talk about gluten is the number one. The problem with gluten is that when the body is exposed to gluten, it's going to ramp up our immune system. And the immune system is going to, of course, try to attack the gluten to break it down. But at the same time, the immune system can't differentiate between the gluten and the thyroid tissue. So the thyroid tissue is being munched down as well. Therefore, a lot of people are going to go through bouts of what we call hyperthyroidism, where they got all kinds of energy and, moving around like a little mouse on one of those spinning wheels. Or they're going to be really fatigued and tired, which is hypothyroidism, which most people that are on any of the synthetic thyroid hormones like Synthroid or levothyroxine, Levoxyl, those are basically dealing with TSH and trying to deal with the symptoms. But unfortunately, many of those people that are on these medications also have an autoimmune component known as Hashimoto's. So the synthetic hormones are never going to address the Hashimoto's, which is the autoimmune component of the hypothyroidism. So you have to address that, the autoimmune component. And that's a real key thing. So what do we want to do? Well, we want to make sure we calm down the immune system. How do we do that? Not consume foods that are, of course, going to ramp up our immune system and then cause this inflammatory process and then just create all kinds of further problems with our thyroid. So the foods that you got to look at is one, wheat, which we know about is gluten. And the other thing is corn. Corn's a big issue. Over 93% of corn is genetically modified, so that's a huge issue. Also, there's going to be soy. Soy is a phytoestrogen. The majority of that is also genetically modified, so we want to stay away from the soy. And then, of course, the sugars, which is a huge factor as well. So other foods that are real critical besides the ones that we just talked about. Strawberries is a big issue. Strawberries, I wouldn't consume strawberries unless you're growing them yourself. The problem with strawberries is that even if they're organic, they're many times putting on this plastic over the root ball of the strawberry. And that's so that it protects from insects. Now, unfortunately, what's taking place is that plastic, which is a methyl bromide, is being absorbed into the plant and ultimately in the strawberry. And when you consume that, then of course the thyroid's really going to go into a major dysfunction, because fluoride, chloride, bromide are huge issues as far as competing for the iodine in the thyroid. Always with organic. Organic is real critical because it's not going to be sprayed. When we look at inorganic type of foods, like vegetables in particular, they're going to be sprayed up with Roundup. Roundup is an herbicide, and that's going to really have a major factor as far as toxicity in our bodies. Grains are another issue. So a lot of people that have sensitivity issues, when they start consuming rice, which raises your blood sugar, by the way, and then people think, well, maybe brown rice is better than white rice, but the problem there is you got the husk of the brown rice, so now your body's exerting more energy to try to break that down. So we get into the controversy of what's better. Well, not to have any rice is really better, because when we start looking at rices, is that not only are they going to have issues as far as raising blood sugar, but they're also going to have problems with arsenic. This is a big issue with rice. There's a lot of arsenic in rice. If you're really set your heart desire to eat rice, and what I recommend is buy it from that's from Thailand, basmati rice. Those are two rices. But overall, I know for me personally, when I was eating rice on a regular basis several years back, oh my gosh, I could tell that my blood sugar was going up. I felt weird. I kind of had brain fog and issues as far as, not really being able to focus. So I don't do rice at all anymore. I try to avoid that. Potatoes are another thing. So potatoes are going to turn into sugar, especially white potatoes. So when we eat potatoes, that's going to be converted to sugar. Now, some people say, and this is what I've been reading lately, is that if we take the potatoes after we cook it, then we put it in the refrigerator, it kind of changes, it causes a conversion process where the potatoes are no longer, when you consume them, no longer going to act in raising your blood sugar, but be more like a fibrous type of starch. That would be better for you. Chips, any chips, not good. So I would try to avoid the chips because there is what's called acrylamide. So whether you do the sweet potato chips, which you would think are good, right? Or potato chips, that processing, that heating is creating a chemical, acrylamide. Acrylamide is a really hard chemical for your body. Now remember, the thyroid has iodine. And the iodine acts almost like an antiseptic in a way. Because if you ever, like when you were a kid and you grew up where you cut yourself, maybe your parents put some iodine on you because it acts as a major antiseptic. So when we look at, consuming these different foods, well, the iodine is going to be pushed out of the body to address these cases where things need to be neutralized because they are so toxic to our body. Also, oats. A lot of people eat oats because they say, well, I heard it's gluten-free. Well, oats are many times contaminated. They are many times also going to act like gluten, which is what we call cross-contamination. So that's going to ramp up your immune system, cause hyperinflation in the body, which really is happening systemically. So that brings me to another point. A lot of people that our thyroid suffers, they understand that the key is going gluten-free, soy-free, dairy-free, corn-free. But at the same time, they're consuming these products that are gluten-free. Well, if you start reading the label on these products, they are going to convert to sugar. That's going to raise your blood sugar. And of course, that's a big issue with thyroid patients or thyroid people that are compromised, is that there is sugar handling problems, whether it be in the hypoglycemia realm, where you can't skip a meal. That's how you know, because you might get nervous, you might get anxious, you might get headachy, or the other aspect, when you just get jittery as well as a result of that. So when we start consuming the foods like the gluten-free foods, which are basically turning into sugar because they're using rice flour, potato flour in that, it's going to drive your sugar level up, and that's going to promote more of an inflammatory process. So what we should do is really have a lot of good healthy oils, because remember, there's 10 trillion cells in our body. Every cell has a fatty lipid layer, okay? And that is real critical. There's 10 trillion cells in the body, so we want to have good oils. So what do we want to have? We want to have cold press. Cold press means that the oils haven't been denatured, they haven't been changed, they haven't been what we call hydrogenated. And those are really bad oils. So when we look at the hydrogenated oils, we're talking about corn oil, we're talking about canola oil, we're talking about soybean, we're talking about margarines. Those don't do anything for your body as far as health-wise. They're not doing anything to promote health and bringing down the overall inflammatory process. So stay away from those. Cold press oils, extra virgin olive oil, avocado oil, grapeseed oil. Those are all good oils because they're cold pressed. So they haven't been superheated to, of course, cause this reaction and create all kinds of health problems. So replace your oils with good quality cold pressed oils. You should do great, okay? If you need any further information, you can always contact us here. Our number is 714-964-9566. And if you'd like to have any special testing, we do the testing. So we do the food sensitivity testing to identify if there is any food sensitivities that your body's reacting to create this inflammatory process. We also do genetic testing to determine if you have, not only celiac disease, but do you have the gene for that, or do you have gluten sensitivity issues, which is just as bad. Remember that gluten sensitivities will eventually turn to celiac, but it might take 20 or 30 years. And you're going to have health problems along the way. So why not avoid it from just the start in the beginning, and find out what's going on. If you have kids, it's real critical that you also have them tested to make sure that they can get on some type of healthy program as well. So until next Friday when we see you again, have a great week and enjoy. And it's cooling down out here, so enjoy the cooler weather.